Abraham and Abimelech's household, verse. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves so they could have children again. Genesis 20 verse 17, Moses' healing of bitter water, verse. Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became fit to drink. There the Lord issued a ruling and instruction for them and put them to the test. Exodus 15 verse 25, the healing of Miriam's leprosy, verse. So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move on till she was brought back. Numbers 12:15, Hannah's barren womb, verse. So in the course of time Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. 1 Samuel 1 verse 20, Hezekiah's recovery from illness, verse. Go and tell Hezekiah, this is what the Lord, the God of your father David, says, I have heard your prayer and seen your tears, I will add 15 years to your life. Isaiah 38 verse 5, healings by Jesus, the healing of a centurion's servant, verse. Then Jesus said to the centurion, Go. Let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Matthew 8 verse 13, healing of the demoniac in the synagogue, verse. Be quiet, said Jesus sternly. Come out of him. The impure spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. Mark 1 verses 25 to 26, healing of the Gadarene demoniac, verse. He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Mark 5 verse 13, healing of the man with a shriveled hand, verse. Then he said to the man, Stretch out your hand. So he stretched it out, and it was completely restored, just as sound as the other. Matthew 12 verse 13. Healing of the Canaanite woman's daughter, verse. Then Jesus said to her, Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. Matthew 15 verse 28, healing of the deaf and mute man, verse. He looked up to heaven and with a deep sigh said to him, Ephphatha. Which means, be opened. At this, the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. Mark 7 verses 34 to 35, healing of the nobleman's son, verse. Go, Jesus replied, your son will live. The man took Jesus at his word and departed. John 4 verse 50, healing of the invalid at Bethesda, verse. Then Jesus said to him, Get up. Pick up your mat and walk. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. John 5 verses 8 to 9, healing of Malchus' ear, verse. But Jesus answered, No more of this. And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Luke 22 verse 51, healing of the blind man in Bethsaida, verse. Once more Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Mark 8 verse 25, healing of the man born blind, verse. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam, this word means, sent. So the man went and washed, and came home seeing. John 9 verse 7, the healing of the crippled beggar, verse. Then Peter said, Silver or gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Walk. Acts 3 verse 6, healing of Aeneas, verse. Aeneas, Peter said to him, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and roll up your mat. Immediately Aeneas got up. Acts 9 verse 34, Paul heals the lame man in Lystra, verse. Paul looked directly at him, saw that he had faith to be healed and called out, "Stand up on your feet." At that, the man jumped up and began to walk. Acts 14 verses 9 to 10.